Hey everyone, before we get to this video, just give me a hot second for Beckett Simonon. You know them, I've talked about them. In the world of cars, okay, we say you can have great quality, you can have a great price, and you can have it right now, but you can only pick two. Now the same thing is true for quality items like watches and leather goods. I like to have a leather good that is going to last me a lifetime, as we say, first thing and last thing you buy, and I like to have it at a great price. Now, where does that leave time? You gotta wait a little bit longer to get that. You see, most leather companies pad their pricing by outsourcing to third parties and by stocking large inventories that they have to cover. With Beckett Simonon, every item you order, from a pair of boots to a dop kit to a suitcase, is handmade all in-house by one artisan. And that means maybe it takes a little bit longer to get it, but you're going to have a great feeling and great looking leather product that's going to last the rest of your life. In the case of this bag, I've already carried it around the world twice. This dop kit has been holding my buzzers for the last year and a half. I wore these boots about a dozen times so far, and these shoes at my sister's wedding, and they are comfortable, breathable, well made, and if you wear them out, they're all resolable. That's why I love Beckett Simonon. They do it right. So hit the link in the description, have a look at some of these beautiful leather goods, and get back to me. If you've bought something, I want to hear how you like it, because I certainly like my boots and bags very much. Now enjoy this video. Morning everyone, welcome to the Angeles Forest. I've been waiting a while to drive this thing. As most of you know, I am a fan of Aston Martin. In theory, their cars are very pretty. I like the sounds they make. I like the idea of GT cars. I think they're cool, honestly. But here's the new Vantage, and already there are some problems, which I will get to in a second. The new Vantage starts at $153,000. I don't know exactly how much this one is because they didn't provide me a window sticker, but it seems like it's got all the standard stuff, maybe some extra leather, call it $165. And for $165, there are some issues. Like I said, first off, the front left airbag light has been on for 3 days, so you have to press that to reset it, and hopefully I don't get into a crash. Secondly, the body panel gaps on this thing, especially around the hood and around the trunk, are atrocious. And I don't know if this is a pre-production or production car, but I had a problem with panel gaps in a $53,000 Tesla, and I made a big deal out of that. This car is triple that price, and the panel gaps are embarrassing. So those are big deals in luxury sports cars. Aston has ditched their own V8 in favor of Mercedes' 4-liter twin-turbo V8, 503 horsepower, 505 pound-feet of torque. Rather than using Mercedes' dual-clutch gearbox, they have a prop shaft running down the center of the car, carbon fiber prop shaft, to the ZF 8-speed transaxle in the back. And so I don't know if that's to save money or whatever, but maybe more streetability and traffic, something like that. But it is what it is. The car weighs 3,650 pounds, which is 40 pounds less than the old V8 Vantage, while apparently being 30% more rigid. So those two things seem good, although 3,650 for a car of this size is heavy. So without further ado, let's have a go. We're gonna go manual. Oh, hear that? Ding ding. I don't know what that is. There's no visual or warning light to indicate what that noise is, and it's been doing it the whole time. When I'm driving, when I'm stopped, it just does it, and I don't know why. So yeah, there's that. Okay, let's have a drive. Right, so there is, you gotta be kidding me, this car. There is no questioning the effectiveness of the Mercedes 4-liter V8. It's got those turbos down in the V of the engine, keeps the engine nice and compact. Also, the heat from the engine helps spool those turbos up faster, and it works just as well here as it does in the AMG GT line of cars, which are about the same price and about the same specs. Now, some good news. This thing's fast. It's fast by really any standard of measure. 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. 195 mile an hour top speed. Big numbers. And actually the top speed is apparently aero limited. So you hit a wall. A virtual, well, not a virtual wall, a wall you can't see, a wall of air. The steering is very sharp. The turn-in is really good for a front-engine car. Lots of confidence at the front end when you go to turn in. Steering has a nice weight to it, actually. Not too heavy, not too light. Also has a good turning radius. Engine's happy to rev. I love the shift lights built into the LCD tack, although I really miss the beautiful Aston gauges. Aston really did do gauges well over the last 10 years, and both the DB11 and the Vantage have the new digital display, which I'm sure is more affordable and more effective, but no more gauge jewelry for Aston is disappointing. Engine sounds great. It's a little muted in the car, but outside it sounds just lovely. And if you rumble through a parking garage in Sport Plus mode, it's good. You can independently adjust the powertrain and suspension settings. You got normal, Sport Plus, and then track. We'll go to track for the chassis setting, or the suspension, or the powertrain settings, excuse me. As far as the suspension goes, this is the comfort setting, and I don't know if you can tell from the video, but man, is it stiff and bouncy. Comfort setting is barely passable for sport driving. The sport and track settings are unusable for any purpose. I can't fathom how the stiffness of those sport and track settings would make this thing go faster. However, it is very typical of a fast front engine car in 2018 that is this heavy to be too stiff. That almost all cars are too stiff. It's really an argument for the mid or rear engine sports cars, which are much more compliant both in the city and up in the canyons and on the racetrack. The mid-engine cars, with its better front geometries, just due to not having an engine up there, are much more preferable. This thing is so stiff. It's so stiff. How stiff is it? It's so stiff that my Focus RS rides better. I shit you not, folks. Nevertheless, in general, I think it looks pretty cool. It hasn't grown on me just yet. It definitely looks concept car-y in the vein of the Lexus LCs. It's sort of got that DB10 fake James Bond car thing happening. The big mouth hasn't quite grown on me yet. The rear is quite attractive, as is the side profile. Although if I owned one of these, those nipples surrounding the rear license plate, the US bumperettes, those are a disaster. Those need to go immediately. The second that car comes home from the dealership, those should be gone. As you can see, it is quick. 20-inch Pirelli P0 tires. Nothing fancy, just the regular P0s. Since I'm stuck behind this car, let's bring it down for a second, because when you have the ZF 8-speed gearbox, right, it's not as snappy, as sporty as the dual clutches. It is in theory, we'll go to drive for a second. In theory, smoother in the city when you're just driving around. Now, the smoothness of the gearbox is completely offset by the fact that the suspension is so stiff. Oh, well. But here's where I'm gonna stop for a second and show you an issue. There's a car I drove recently, I believe it was the Hellcat, where I said the biggest problem is from 5 to 0 and 0 to 5. So if I take my foot off the gas, this thing creeps. It has so much creep. And it just, in traffic, it's got a lot of creep, and then the brakes are really grabby. And these are the steels. These aren't even the optional ceramics. These are just the regular steel brakes. They're 6-piston. They work good when you're going fast. But when you sit in traffic in the city, oh my God, 5 to 0 and 0 to 5 are such a jerky experience. It really bothers me. Engine's happy to live up in the high RPMs. The front-rear balance is actually pretty good, although it doesn't tuck the nose super fast when you jump off the throttle. It still feels mostly neutral front to rear, not like the old V12 Vantage where it was all a front-hinged pendulum, you know, inverse 911 as it were. Third gear is good for most of the forest here. This thing rips through fuel. I've only done about 25 miles in this tank of fuel, and I've burned off a quarter of a tank. So it burns it. Turning fuel into speed and noise. And we've caught our Frontier again. He was nice. He pulled out of the way. Maybe he'll do that again. He's got a Connecticut license plate. My people. Yep. No. The interior is actually rather lovely. It's the roomiest Vantage that there's ever been. It's got a bunch of room. Oh, thank you. Lots of headroom, lots of leg room, and they've made the trunk a hatch, so I can actually fit my camera case and some extra stuff back there. That's nice. I like that. In the last car, I actually couldn't do that. Sounds the business. I will give them that. It sounds the business. And the brakes do hold up really well to sport driving. I haven't tried the ceramics, but these really have held up pretty good here. The shifts are very good at higher RPM, higher throttle, higher performance situations. They're a little jerky in the city though, especially if you use manual mode at partial throttle. I've heard some rumors they're going to put a manual gearbox in this thing, but I don't believe it. This whole center console here doesn't seem like it would work with a shifter. And also that would be the only manual gearbox application for this engine, and I don't think they have the resources to pull that off. That's just me. I'd love to be proven wrong though. The materials in here are really nice. The dry carbon on the console bezel is really good. The aluminum is real. It's nice and cold to the touch. The only cheapy feelings are the things are the vents, which are just your regular old plastic. But honestly, I can forgive that. The rest of it's pretty good. I don't love the square steering wheel. It's not necessary. But if you're going to do a square steering wheel, I like that they took a page from the Rolls-Royce handbook and put the underhand grips as well. That's pretty cool. Sometimes when you're cruising, you want to drive underhand. It's nice to get a good grip down there. Fast. I mean, you know, you usually in the past, the old Vantage, I'd have been making, you know, some kind of excuses as to how it sounds good and feels nice to the touch and everything is super exquisite, but it's not fast. Here it seems they've traded some of that beauty, some of those fine detailed items for some speed. This thing is fast. No excuses fast. Also kind of a pain in the butt. The parking sensors are so pretty sensitive. They start beeping when you're like 6 feet from anything, or if you're leaving a driveway, any kind of approach or departure angles, the parking sensors go nuts. The Mercedes command system is a mild improvement from the Volvos. I mean, that's not fair. It is an improvement. I'm sorry, my bag is back there. I really thought it would be more quiet than this. Oh, now the brakes are getting a little warm. I've been on it for like 45 minutes though. It's got the kind of view in your rear view mirror that makes people want to pull out of the way. It has that. So, where does that leave us? Well, first off, it makes me feel like Aston has begun to really come into the modern era, embrace that, as opposed to sticking to its old school roots. That's okay, I guess, the price of progress. On the other hand, it does, this specific car, last thing I forgot, this key in my pocket, it rattles, like it's this thing, but it's not like solid, like it rattles a bit, and it's kind of like gross. I don't know, that bothers me. So that leaves us with this. It's faster. It's got a new design language that is very interesting, whether or not you like it. The Mercedes engine is really good. The ZF gearbox is not as good as the Mercedes gearbox, but it's acceptable for most things. It's too stiff and too herky-jerky to really be a good daily driver, and that's why you would get a front-engined sports car, for that trunk and that supposed ride quality, but you don't have it. The thing about this car to me, and a lot of other Astons, is that in the first year, they're usually kind of half-baked, and then there's a correction in like a year or two. The DB11 was like that. The original Vanquish was like that, and it was corrected with the Vanquish S. And this feels like that. This feels like a bit of an underdeveloped product, and that's unfortunate because it's a $150,000 car, and people have certain expectations for a $150,000 car. But it is what it is, right? And I think they'll probably learn, improve, retune, do better with the next one. I certainly hope they do, because it seems like a really promising start, but there's a lot of errors in this thing that would really make me have a hard time giving Aston Martin $150,000. So thank you to Aston for letting me evaluate the car. I'm sure I didn't say what you wanted to hear, but that's life. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.